Welcome back, guys, to my 7th installment of my top 10 players of 2017. And yes, you see correctly, your eyes do not deceive you. I do have Squishy Muffins from Cloud9 at number 4. And this is, I think, the first player in the list that I don't have to go over any of the previous results for. I don't have to go into detail on any of these. If you want to see in detail a breakdown of every matchup that I've used to rank Squishy, all the matchups against his rival teams throughout the year, and you can see all of that in the start of my Torment video, because I don't want to repeat myself. And luckily for us, Squishy and Torment played the entire year, at least all of their matchups from LANs and playoffs versus other top teams were played together, of course, initially in the Muffin Men, and then from then on as Cloud9. Even in the Universal Open 2v2 they did play together. So you can see all of the specific results in more detail in that video on my channel. It's Torment number 7. But this is Squishy Muffins number 4, and I will give you a very quick tournament summary, like placements breakdown. It's not too difficult because obviously Cloud9 started, or rather the Muffin Men it was at the time, they announced themselves to the world at DreamHack Atlanta with a first place finish, and they managed to keep up that run of form all the way through RLCS Season 4 online and the Gnarly Invitational. Just bam, first, best team in North America. A lot of people think best team in the world as well. And it was only RLCS Season 4 LAN and E-League where they finish off third place, and third place again. The people start to think, okay, maybe they're not the best team in the world, but certainly still one of the best teams in the world, and you can make a very good case for them still being the best team in North America, with them being knocked out by all EU teams at the E-League LAN in particular. Cloud9 didn't face any NA competition, and versus NA competition they've this year come out on top pretty much every time, apart from versus G2 in the group stage of RLCS. And every other loss I think in a big series has been to an EU team, 3 times to PSG, once to Mock, once to Method, once to GFE. So quite an interesting year all the way around for Squishy Muffins. Very, very successful year, I would say, although obviously, like I said, with Torment it started off pretty badly with not even qualifying for RLCS Season 3 group stage. The strong finish, maybe not quite as strong a finish as G2 or GFE, but still very, very strong finish with 2 third places is something to be exceptionally proud of, and just showing up and showing everybody that these guys can absolutely play on LAN with their kind of unique robotic playstyle, or not playstyle, robotic personalities on stage. That's, I think, mainly Squishy is the reason for that. That's he's I think, despite being the youngest player, as far as I'm aware, on Cloud9, I think he's still, from what I see, the leader. Maybe they'll obviously look to each other in game to pick each other up if they're feeling down, and they'll be trying to help each other through that battle. Pretty much 50-50-50, or I guess 33-33-33. But Squishy is certainly the icon of this team. He's a standout player for Cloud9, and I think I can say without a shadow of a doubt, the reason I wanted to put him 4th place and ahead of both of his teammates is for that reason. Like, despite both of his teammates having slightly better results than him overall throughout the year, slightly better win-loss, I do have him highest. And with that being mentioned, I'll very quickly say it is Squishy, 13 wins, 9 losses for the year, which is the same win-loss as Torment. He's +4, slightly worse than Gimmick, because of course Torment and Squishy got a bit of a bad Universal Open, and Torment's played more games than Squishy, because he had the additional 2 wins, 2 losses at the X Games, which I consider a success for Torment at that tournament. So overall I got Squishy at 6th place for my win-loss ranking, and he comes out actually at 9th place in the prize money ranking for the year, behind Fairy Pete, Garrett, Torment, Jacob, and JNaps. So he's actually 9th place out of all the players in my list for prize money. So both of those stats have him lower than I put him. I put him at 4th. And obviously the reason for that, kind of similar to why I put JNaps at 5th, and also Garrett was slightly higher rated than I subjectively put him higher than my algorithms and the other stats that I was using to calculate placements had them at. It's purely because I think the way that he carried his team throughout the year, not just with solo plays, not just with fancy ceiling shots, not just with ridiculous mechanical outplays and things that are blowing the minds of Redditors and people on Twitch and YouTube and all over the world. It's not just like with plays like that, but his passing plays and his team plays and his ability to make himself difficult to dispossess. There's lots of things like those are just a few things, but there's lots of things about Squishy that I think make him, for me right now, probably the best player in North America. The one, obviously, that every player's got their weaknesses. I think that Squishy, this is just my opinion. He does disagree. Or at least from what I've heard, and I'm sure a lot of people will as well. But from me watching him play and watching Cloud9 play, I think that they do get a bit nervous. I think that the pressure of RLCS LAN, all that expectation on them to succeed, was their ultimate downfall versus Method in that loser finals. And the PSG matchup as well is something that's sort of not gone in their favor towards the latter end of the year as well. And I think it's just they're feeling the pressure when a team beats them, when Cloud9 feel weakness against a team, and when Squishy gets beaten by a team once. I think that then it puts up a little bit of a barrier, and that makes it more difficult the following times that they play against that team. And that's going to be the main challenge and the main thing that interests me watching Cloud9, and in particular Squishy Muffins moving into 2018, is how is he going to deal with these rivalries, and how is he going to deal with these matchups where perhaps it hasn't always gone well in the past, and there's all these memories and things that have gone wrong, and are they still going to be able to play their game and play with the confidence that they did play? When we think of his best goal that's ever been scored at RLCS, the confidence to whip out that ceiling shot versus Method, is he going to be able to do that again after losing that series and having that in the back of his mind? I think he will, but they might need to embrace a little bit more of maybe an animated or at least adapt their on stage presence a little bit. I don't know if this very quiet robotic response to all the situations is going to be a consistent thing for Cloud9 and for Squishy Muffins in particular moving forward. Maybe it will. It's going to be very interesting to see if that sort of style of reaction and style of closing out the pressure is a consistent thing going forward. Something I'm very interested in. Honestly, it's the mental aspect of Squishy and these guys, because they're so young. We have to remember, I think they're 16 or 17 or something like that. Certainly not long 17. That's incredible pressure to be put on someone at that age, and it's going to be very interesting now watching them. Now that they're considered to be the best team in North America, that changes everything. They're no longer like the underdogs. They're no longer fighting for that top spot with NRG, and maybe they're more fighting with G2 for that spot now. And is that going to make it any more difficult, or are they just going to own that and say, yes, we are the best team in North America, and not only that, we're going to go on and become the best team in the world? But that's a bit more of a hypothetical, things to look in the future. In terms of 2017, I did mention a couple of quick headings there about what stood out to me about Squishy Muffins. One of them was passing, and I recall, I think it was either watching his stream or someone else's stream, and I heard him, or I can't remember, it might have been an interview, but I heard him say that the thing that enabled them to win the DreamHack Atlanta event, where they blew up and showed everybody that they were the real deal as the Muffin Men, he said that he was just focusing on passing. And that was really interesting to me. It might have even been a post-game interview on the final. I can't remember, honestly, but I remember him saying that passing was a huge thing for him, and team play. And that was really impressive to me, because looking at them as a team, they were playing Rocket League almost what looked like perfectly in the online segment of group stage and playoffs. They were just dismantling the rest of the other teams in North America, and they were doing it as a team. They weren't, trying to style on their opponents as individuals, even though I'm sure that they could every once in a while, and they did every once in a while. They were looking for each other in the field. They're passing, and they're trying to bring each other into the game, trying to make each other look better. And that's not something that we often associate with players who are as flashy and players who are as individually capable as Squishy Muffins. So I've got a huge amount of respect for him being able to own that role, and being able to be so good at it, and put aside all of the, I'm sure there has to be desire to just try ceiling shots all the time. That reaction or that feeling of scoring that ceiling shot at RLCS must feel pretty good, And it must be pretty hard to subdue that and think, no, actually, I'm not just going to only go for stealing shots. I'm going to do an infield pass. In fact, that's going to be the main thing that we're going to go for is the passing plays. So I'm very impressed by the passing. I think that's one thing that he does have over JNaps, his main rival. That's why I put him above JNaps. I think he figured out how to bring his teammates into the game and how to help them play better earlier in the year than JNaps did. That's another reason why I've got him above his biggest rival, I think, who is JNaps. And the other thing I mentioned is that he's so difficult to dispossess, and this is something I would actually associate with the Garrett. Like, this is something that I give Squishy and Garrett above anyone else in America. They just rarely took themselves out the game. They're always there. They're always involved in every defensive play that their teams make, and that's one of the things that make them so difficult to beat. Is they never take themselves away from the game for free. They're not going to remove themselves from the equation with absolutely nothing said and done. So that's something that I think Squishy also has that JNaps doesn't. Is he's a bit harder to dispossess, a bit harder to just outplay, I suppose. But and I'm only like making these comparisons to try and show you guys why I've got Squishy rated higher than JNaps, despite the fact that JNaps won significantly more prize money than he did. Although I talked about in the JNaps video, it's partly because the prize money for the E-League tournament was more inflated than the other tournaments throughout the year, just because as years go on, as time passes, tournaments prize pools are likely to rise. But that's hopefully given some light, shed some light on why I think Squishy deserves to be higher rated than his two main rivals, Garrett and JNaps. They're, like, for me, the three best players in North America by far at the moment, and that's the order that I put them in for 2017 as a whole. Would I put them in that same order at this moment? I actually don't know. It would be a lot harder, and like I said, the mental aspect for Squishy is going to be maybe something to look at, because JNaps I think is super clutch mentally, even when backed up against the wall, and I've not really seen that from Cloud9. I've not seen them back up against the wall fight back like I've seen from JNaps. So it's not all one-way traffic. It's not all like Squishy above JNaps in every category. I don't think it's that close, or that one-sided. It's a super close, super difficult decision. But Cloud9's greater success throughout the year, Squishy carrying in a different sort of way than JNaps did, and I think he takes a lot of the best of both, or in 2017 at least, he took a lot of the best of both worlds from Garrett and from JNaps and put them all together. Like a lot of similarities to Garrett's defense, and the still just as deadly in offense as JNaps, except maybe a little bit more focused on the team play element than JNaps. That's not to say I always feel like I need to leave this little footnote at the end of every sentence, because people are going to say, how dare you say JNaps isn't a good team player? I saw him pass the ball to Kronovi once. Yeah, I can already hear you saying that. Don't worry about it. JNaps is great at team plays as well. I just think that if you had top trump cards and there was the passing statistic, I think Squishy would have him beat just by a little bit, just ever so slightly. Despite the fact that G2 are right now on the up, and it's largely due to the fact that JNaps and his teammates are able to find each other in the field, much like Cloud9 have been doing for, I think, longer throughout the year. So yeah, I think I've probably said everything that I want to say, I hope, on Squishy Muffins. He is my number 4 player for 2017, and I think this is going to be probably very interesting, looking at your guys' comments, trying to predict my top 3. A lot of you guys have been bang on throughout. I'm looking at the comments, some people are like spot on. I've already obviously made my top 10, and I'm going to stick to it no matter what, but I'll be looking again to see what order you guys have got or trying to predict my top 3 to be. What do you think about this assessment? Would you agree? Would you disagree? I'm very interested to read the comments on this series. It's very interesting. Also thinking about I'm thinking about making that series, top 10 players right now. Probably I'll wait a while on that one, because I don't want to just make another top 10 players right after I finish one. But yeah, a lot of people are asking for that, so I'm sure that'll happen in the future at some point. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a ramble. I'm looking at how long I've been talking. Oh my goodness, there's almost been 15 minutes gone by. But anyway, thanks for watching as always, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for number 3.